Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, where we take a glance into blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and today I'm actually flying solo on this podcast episode. Devin is not here to join me today, but I am here to give my spoiler-free thoughts on A24's latest film, which is titled Men. Before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on platforms around the internet, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Audible, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to the show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram and follow us on Twitter at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X, or you can email us at filmoptix@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. So again, this is a spoiler-free. I just wanted to ride that home for everybody out there who's listening because, you start listening to a podcast and then, you start kind of drowning it out because it kind of adds to the background noise. But again, this is your only warning. Well, actually not your only warning, but this is not a spoiler-heavy episode. I'm just going to be giving my initial reactions on Alex Garland's Men again. But just wanted to let you guys know, we have been on a little bit of a hiatus, haven't been uploading as much as we used to. Usually we upload at least 2 to 3 a week. We've kind of been pushing it back to at least 1 a week. We've been on a bit of a dry spell, really, for a lot of releases. There's a lot of great content coming up. So, we're kind of just waiting on that and biding our time for what is to come. But just want to let you guys know, this is kind of a filler episode, I guess you could call it, in a way. But without further ado, we'll be right back after this introduction to A24's Men.
Something happened. My husband went upstairs to our balcony and let himself go.
You must wonder why you drove him to it.
I didn't drive him to it.
I thought it'd be true. But if you'd given him the chance to apologize, he'd still be alive.
What?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and we are back with our spoiler-free review of A24's Men. This film is directed by Alex Garland and written by him as well, and stars Jessie Buckley, Rory, Kinnear, and Paapa, Essiedu. And the story is as follows. That's a pretty simple one to begin with. A young woman goes onto a solo vacation to the English countryside following the death of her ex-husband. So what you can tell from the synopsis, it's a pretty simple, straightforward story with a lot of twists and turns along the way, but I'm just going to give my initial reactions as I've mentioned many times before. So the way this is kind of going to go, I'll kind of break down my review for like my initial reactions, talk about the performances, a little bit of the cinematography, and kind of just wrap up with my final thoughts and my ratings. So this movie isn't the best. Unfortunately, I feel like there is a message somewhere within this movie, but I think I need a second viewing to process it correctly. There's a lot of different themes that I believe that Alex Garland is trying to portray to the viewer in this movie, but unfortunately, I feel a lot of them fall flat. Which kind of sucks, but, because I really, really wanted to like this movie. The first 2 acts, I think he did a phenomenal job of keeping me interested and keeping me guessing to where the story is going to go. But at the same time, I feel like the film did a really great job of subverting our expectations and kind of just taking us on this journey of grief that Jessie Buckley's character goes through after the death of her husband and how she tries to cope with the loss of her husband in and of itself, kind of going through the how many other stages of grief there are. I think 7 to 8 stages of grief. But yeah, Jessie Buckley's character, Harper, kind of decides to, take a little bit of me time after everything that happened with the death of her husband. And, things start to go awry when she, visits the countryside, kind of wants to do a little bit of self-care here and there. But, like as I said before, things kind of just fall flat. Actually, I would say more so head south than fall flat for her on this journey. But like I said, the first two acts were amazing. I didn't know where or how the story was going to turn out. And that's what I think the trailer did so well, was giving us a bunch of small little clips or snippets of the movie without actually revealing what the real plot is all about, without giving us, a full trailer full of like the third act type situation, which I think they did a really great job of keeping under wraps. But I will say that this movie is full of jump scares and has a very ominous feeling that never seems to go away. And luckily, I really like, even though I wasn't a super big fan of the third act, I do appreciate how it kind of turns into a bit of a slasher film within the third act of this movie, which had me excited. But as things progressed, it quickly lost me. And I just didn't really think that it was all that great. It was one of my most anticipated movies, or one of A24's anticipated movies of this year. We've gotten movies from them in the past this year, such as Everything Everywhere All at Once, which it's been doing phenomenal in the domestic box office. I believe it is A24's current highest grossing film domestically. And also they released X early this year, which we reviewed both X and Everything Everywhere All at Once earlier this year. And I think they did a phenomenal job with it. I think A24 is very hit or miss sometimes. They'll come out with like 2 or 3 movies that I really, really enjoy, then kind of, fall flat halfway through. I believe that this movie kind of felt very distant from Alex Garland's, the director, his previous films such as Annihilation or even Ex Machina. I think he did a really great job portraying the message that he was trying to send to the viewers within Annihilation and within Ex Machina. And I thought that they were beautifully done, but it doesn't seem that his experience from those movies reflect in Men at all. You can kind of call it, I guess, a little bit of, people would probably call this like a woke movie, things of that nature. I didn't mind the message that I think that it's trying to send out, but again, I don't want to go too deep into it because I want you guys to experience it for yourself. But I think it's an okay but not great movie. But I will say that Jessie Buckley definitely steals the show with her performance as Harper. And Rory Kinnear's performance, he's actually casted as multiple men within this film. And it kind of just blew me away with how much they were able to do with so few actors. I mean, given this is an indie film, but obviously Jessie Buckley's performance here was just phenomenal as always. She's been one of my favorite actresses for a couple of years now. Rory Kinnear, he gives a really great performance out of all of the characters that he does play within this movie. And at first, I honestly didn't really notice it. And then it kind of clicked like as the film was going on. I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty interesting. And then Paapa Essiedu, who actually plays Harper's husband, for the scenes that he is in, I can say he's like barely in the movie, but he leaves like this invisible presence that kind of haunts you through the entire film. And I gotta say, like, watching this movie, I had a very hard time trying to actually like falling asleep within like the past few days that I watched it, because the third act really is that just, it's not that it's mind blowing. It's just very disturbing and very gory. And I don't think general audiences are going to like it all that much, unfortunately. But the cinematography, I will say, for this movie is very breathtaking, very mesmerizing as well. And I think it's one of the best best looking indie films this year, excuse me. And it's filled with a lot of like amazing like cutaway shots. Just in general, there's a lot of foliage, a lot of I guess you could call them like wood scenes or kind of like outdoor scenes, or Jessie Buckley's kind of like, exploring the countryside as to the cottage that she rented out for herself. And it just looks beautiful. A lot of amazing rolling hills and just a lot of nature at work, essentially. But overall, yeah, it was a pretty interesting movie. Granted, the performances and the cinematography, I think, are two things that really outshine in this movie. Unfortunately, I feel like the story does fall flat, which kind of sucks. But, it's one of those movies where, you kind of either take it or you leave it. A24 has always been notorious for these obscure endings that kind of, just end the story. I do want to go see this again, but at the same time, it's I actually find it very difficult for me wanting to go back to see it because I really don't want to go through that third act again. I just don't. Honestly, I might just go watch like an ending explained YouTube video to kind of, put my full thoughts of this movie to rest, to be completely honest. But again, like I've been rambling on here for, I don't know, the past 10, 15 minutes. It's an okay movie. As far as my final thoughts for the movie, I feel like, as I mentioned before, it's good, not great. I would actually say it's more okay, not good. But I do believe this is A24's weakest movie of the year 2022 so far, because I do know they have a few other films lined up for us this year. But I was really looking forward to this movie. And honestly, I feel like I got exactly what I wanted. And that was a Jessie Buckley performance, like a great Jessie Buckley performance, because that was the main reason why I went. I got to see my girl in action. And as well as the third act where, crap just kind of hits the fan and everything just kind of turns sideways. I wasn't a fan of the ending. I believe that it did a terrible job of conveying what the message was. I kind of understood what Alex Garland was going for again, but unfortunately, the film kind of falls flat compared to his other films that I actually enjoy going back to watching. I actually watched Annihilation and Ex Machina prior to this, just to kind of give it more of a once over, I guess you could say, compared to his other films. He's also done films as well as like 28 Days Later. He's kind of in that horror genre type of field. But this movie, I mean, if you're looking for something to kind of like, just scare the crap out of you, I think it does a really great job. Like I said before, a lot of great jump scares, but it's just one of their weakest films this year for A24, especially for Alex Garland. He's definitely directed better work than this. And it just wasn't all that great. I did not have that great of a time. And honestly, I can't really recommend this to any of my personal friends or anyone else that I know. Take of it what you will. If you want to give it a shot, I say go for it, but only if you're really into the horror type genre, because if you're not, you're just not going to like it altogether. Again, I think the trailer did a great job. The trailer did a fantastic job of leaving us or keeping us guessing and to figure out where the story was going to go and what it was supposed to be about outside of the main synopsis. It was all right, and that's pretty much it. It's not something I would recommend to someone or, put on a best, movie list of 2022. It definitely falls farther near the bottom for me. As for ratings, it would be probably just like a solid, like 3 out of 5 stars, maybe even 2.5 actually, since I've been talking about this for like the past 20 minutes or so or less. But yeah, so I would say within that 2.5, 3 stars out of 5, maybe 2.5 stars out of 5 range. So that's pretty much my initial, my own analysis, whatever you want to call it, on this movie of A24's Men, directed again and written by Alex Garland. Jesse Buckley just keeps on keeping on. I feel like her and Paapa Essiedu had really great chemistry as well. And Rory Kinnear, I think he did a great job. I truly believe that, a lot of the UK actors are some of the best actors working today, and they just continue to blow me away. Unfortunately, this movie did not blow me away, but that is okay. Definitely go check it out. If you are interested in it, this is just one man's thoughts and opinions about this movie. If you are interested in checking this out, definitely go watch it and form your own opinion about this movie. I'm just a guy giving my opinion, just like everybody else. I have no pull. I have no clout. I have no weight to my analysis or my, opinions of this movie. I'm just telling you how I felt about this so movie. But that pretty much concludes our episode here. My first mini-sode, my first solo episode. Let me know how I did in the comment section of any podcast audio platform that you guys listen to. But really quick before I go, I want to let you guys know what's coming up on the show and what's been out on the show within these past few weeks. So we actually did cover Downton Abbey, A New Era, with myself and Nicole Ackman from Next Best Picture. That is up on our podcast right now, so you can definitely listen to that episode. We also closed out our Moon Knight series finale, or season finale. I'll say season finale for now because I'm not sure if we're getting a season 2 of Moon Knight. I really hope we do, fingers crossed. But season 1, the finale of Moon Knight, which I covered with Leo Rydell over at Geekly Goods. Definitely check out his YouTube channel over at Geekly Goods on YouTube. So we kind of, talked about that and, another MCU show coming and gone and 2 more taking its place. It's a crazy year so far. And we also covered our Doctor Strange 2 spoiler-free review with Amanda over at AMX NDA Reviews. So definitely check out those 3 episodes that are up on the podcast as of right now. And for what's coming up on the podcast in the future. So we have a lot. There's a lot of TV content coming out, and I'm so excited, guys. I'm very, very excited for all of this. We have the Obi-Wan show. The first 2 episodes are supposed to be dropping May 27th, Friday, May 27th, I believe. So that will be a lot of fun. Not only that, we're going to be also covering Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 1, which covers episodes 1 through 7, which is also dropping on Friday, May 27th. So there's a lot of crazy content coming up for us to dive into. We're also going to be taking a crack at Umbrella Academy Season 3. That's supposed to be coming up on Netflix here within the next month, as well as The Boys Season 3 is also dropping. So there's a lot of great TV content out there that I'm super, super excited for. Of course, we're going to be covering movies here as we go, but I feel like for the next few weeks, we're definitely going to be focusing more on the TV side, just because there's just so much great content coming out, y'all, and it's going to be fantastic. So definitely keep a lookout for our Obi-Wan episode 1 through 2 review. I believe Devin will be returning back for that, as well as our Stranger Things Season 4 Volume 1 review there, as well as Umbrella Academy and The Boys Season 3 and more. There's just so much coming up. It's crazy, but those are just a few things you can look forward to that's coming up on our podcast. We may do something for Star Wars Celebration. I'm not entirely sure, but make sure to follow us on Twitter at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X, to keep up with that information. And before I go, guys, I just have to ask you guys one more question. It's more of a call to action. All we ask for people who have actually made it this far to this through this episode, it's to share this episode with their friends, whether it be your mother, your brother, your lover, whoever it may be. Make sure to share an episode of the Film Optix podcast with a movie lover in need. So I'm going to shut up now. This is, again, my first solo episode. I've definitely been wanting to do this for a while. for certain things where, I find interesting and Devin does not, and that's totally fine. Game of Thrones, maybe I'll bring somebody on. You will have some more guests on. We're not entirely sure, but Devin will be returning for our Obi-Wan series review there. So that's pretty much it for today. I'm going to shut up now again. Thank you guys all for listening. Let me know how I did on my first solo episode. Leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, outside of YouTube, because we are not on YouTube, unfortunately, audio only. But let me know how I did, because I definitely want to do this again. This is a lot of fun, less to edit, which is also a lot of fun. But we hope you guys have an amazing start to your week. And we hope you guys check out Obi-Wan and Stranger Things hitting Disney Plus and Netflix respectively on Friday, May 27th. So may the Force be with you. And that's a wrap for today, everyone. Thank you all for listening. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay in the know. My name is Christian, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.